Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Sally Fletcher. I'm the Head of Thought Leadership here at Hypatus, and I'm delighted to be hosting this session today. So a few things to talk you guys through before we get started. First of all, we want to make this session as interactive as possible. On the right-hand side, you can see a few different icons to click on. One is for interactions. I really do encourage you to post your questions, post your chat, post your comments into the Q&A or into the chat. We'd also love to know where you're joining us from, so also please post in there. This session will be recorded, so don't worry about taking notes or screenshots. Sit back and relax. I will send you the slides afterwards along with some more information. So, please do feel free to enjoy and learn. What else? Also for the session, we've got around 50 minutes planned. Please do post your questions throughout, and we will make sure to take those towards the end of the session. We're also going to be doing some polls. I want to make sure that this session is as tailored to you guys as possible. We'd love to understand, what are you facing? What is it when it comes to e-invoicing that's causing you problems? So please do answer our polls. I'm going to post the first one now. Okay. I hope that pops up for you guys. Let me know any problems in the chat. But the question is, do you already have an e-invoicing solution? Yes, via ERP, yes, via a third party, yes, basic solutions, so like a PDF manual processes, or no, still using paper or manual invoicing, or no, but actively looking for a solution. So I'll leave that up and just kind of pop in the one that suits you best, and we'll have a look at where you guys are. You've got a minute to do it. Okay. Perfect. So while we do that, I'm just going to introduce our speakers for today. So we've got three speakers here. First up, we've got Fotis Strachos. He's a Senior Product Manager for Integrations here at Hypatus. Fotis is overseeing the strategy and execution of integration initiatives with a strong technical background and several years of experience in SaaS solutions. He's focusing on integrating Hypatus's core capabilities with ERP systems and source-to-pay solutions. He focuses on leading the development of e-invoicing solutions, ensuring smooth connectivity with major ERP platforms. He's joined by Michael Eisler and Thomas Berger from Friendworks. Michael is the founder and CEO and is responsible for sales and marketing. With more than 25 years of experience, he has supported hundreds of clients across a wide range of document management projects, combining strategic vision with hands-on experience. And he's joined by his colleague and co-founder, Thomas Berger. Thomas leads the company's SAP division, with over 20 years of experience and more than 200 SAP-based incoming invoice projects. He brings technical expertise and practical insight into the enterprise document processes. So, three very qualified people talking to us today. Okay, brilliant. So the poll has ended. Let's have a quick look at our results. So a little bit of a mix. Some people using their ERP for e-invoicing, some people using a third-party provider, some people just using very basic solutions. Thank you. And I'll just launch another quick poll. We want to know if you're handling global e-invoices, because that will help us with the session. Are you just having your e-invoices and invoices generally in Europe, globally, just in your country, or you're not sure? So I'll leave that up for just a second. Okay, brilliant. So what are we going to talk to you about today? The e-invoicing landscape is changing very fast. We know that regulatory mandates are expanding, data standards are shifting, and for many organizations, the move to structured machine-readable invoice formats represents a very significant transformation and a very tricky one. There is so much to learn and so much to get your head around. We're going to try and break it down for you today. Done right, e-invoicing can really be about more than just compliance. It's an opportunity to drive that real efficiency, improve accuracy, and unlock better working capital. I am going to share our agenda with you. If I just share my screen, and then we can have a look at exactly what we will be covering. Ooh. Let me just go back to the beginning. I got ahead of myself there. Okay, brilliant. So hopefully you can see that. Let me know any problems. We're going to start with a kind of background and update to what you need to know. We're then going to go into the core compliance requirements. So a little bit of the essentials, because of course there are millions of different rules and regs. Roadblocks to compliance, so we have 5 specific roadblocks that we see from our experience, our speakers see time and time again that stop people being compliant. We're going to do a quick demo, show how you can go from automation to agentic within e-invoicing, and then how to turn compliance into competitive advantage. And we will have some time at the end for Q&A. Okay, so I'm going to go to Michael. Well, let me look at the poll results first, Michael, sorry, just to give you an indication of our audience. So I can see that 50% of our audience are handling global e-invoicing, 40% are within Europe, and then just 1% just in their country. So it's a relatively kind of widespread for our group. So I'm going to go to you first, Michael, and I'd love to know really about what is the background and what are the different rules and regs that people need to be aware of today.
Challenge is that you got different rules in different countries. A few years ago, we first heard about something that's called EN 16931, and we thought, oh, that's great, we have one set of rules for Europe and everything will be the same, but this hope wasn't fulfilled totally. There is enough space for every country to do their own thing, and still taking care of these EN 16931, and that's really a challenge because every country is doing a little bit different, at different time, different tax rules, different timetables for ingoing or inbound invoices and outbound invoices, and that's a really challenge. You see it here; it looks like a colored carpet. And some countries are joining, some are not, and that's the challenge to get all those problems served and all those challenges done. And we have to do with it every day because we have a lot of international customers as well as the Hypertos. And yeah, we are trying to provide one solution for every challenge you have. And I think that's where we can support our customers during all those different rules in the different countries.
Absolutely. So there's clearly lots of new kind of rules and regulations, as I said. Fotis, I'd love to go to you, and could you give our audience some insight into what counts as a compliant e-invoice?
Sure. Thank you, Sally. And first of all, welcome everyone to our webinar. So compliance, it's a multi-factor thing when we talk about e-invoices. The key concept that we need to keep in mind, or the key concepts, are what is the main reason for those e-invoices to be generated in the first place? And the magical word here, the key word, is continuous transaction control. How is this enabled? Is with those compliance rules that we're going to see here. So an e-invoice is not just a technical structured document. It is beyond that though as well. It is a structured document, usually coming in an XML format. Although in some countries we've seen cases of hybrid formats like PDF A3s that have embedded XML attachments that they represent the actual legal e-invoice. They need to be compliant to specific regulations, like Michael said before, the EN 16931 for Europe, but other countries might have different compliance regulations. And most importantly, it contains all the necessary tax and legal data for the tax authorities and the governments to keep, continuous control, transaction control of the document. That's why I said that the CTC, continuous transaction control concept, is very important. something also that it's really, really important, although in some cases, as we're going to see, it's not always the rule, is that those electronic structured documents to be transmitted electronically. This is why most of the countries that have already governmental portals, or we have like global portals like PEPL in Europe, that they're actually facilitating this transmission, and also the auditing and the validation of those invoices that are being exchanged. Which also takes us to the fourth bullet point, which is the report and the validation of those e-invoices. Now, what is considered not a compliant e-invoice, although some exceptions might also apply to this rule? So first of all, anything that is scan related, like you scan a document, you convert it to PDF, it's not an electronic invoice. Word files, Excel files, they're complementary files, they're complementary documents to the e-invoice, but they're not accepted as an electronic invoice per se. And also regular PDFs, usually they're not accepted as, of course, as electronic invoices, even though in some cases they might include attachments of XML format. But this also depends on the country. But the strict regulation says that the PDF with the embedded attachment has to be a PDF A3 because it's following some regulation standards for security and auditing. Also, any document, even though it's an XML, a structured document that is missing required information or is not complying to international standards like EN 16931, it's not considered a compliant e-invoice and needs to be rejected. Transmission, as I told you before, usually most of the countries are requiring those e-invoices to be exchanged through their designated portals or networks. In some countries like Germany, for instance, this is not the case yet, although we see that pretty much every country is shifting into this direction because it kind of makes sense for the continuous transaction control. And also, electronic invoices accepted, received, that they're not properly reported or they're rejected by the governmental portal or the recipient itself because they're not compliant, of course, they cannot be considered as compliant e-invoices. Which then takes us to also to the next, I think, slide. What does these core compliance requirements actually mean to you as a recipient of the e-invoices? What do you have to take care of when you're and check when you're receiving something that your supplier is claiming to be a compliant e-invoice? First of all, it has to be compatible and compliant to the structure and the format that they're claiming that the e-invoice has been generated. So if they're claiming it's an Ex-Rechnung, for instance, in Germany, or a Faktura PA, or anything like that, it has to comply to the XML structure according to the XSD schema of this specific format. But also you need to proceed with some semantic and business validations, like if it complies to tax rules or to anything else that has been inside the compliance profile that you need to check. Archiving is also important. There are variations, of course, per country, but the general principle is that e-invoices, similar to regular PDF invoices, they need to be archived. They need to be archived, and they need to be also available for a long period of time. Usually it's from 5 to 10 years. And providing an audit log for an audit trail for those documents is also in scope of the electronic invoices exchange. VAT compliance, even though an incoming e-invoice is well structured and it looks like a compliant one, it needs to be checked thoroughly if it complies to the actual tax regulations and requirements. Otherwise, it has to be rejected. And of course, one of the biggest requirements and challenges we're going to see is be ready to accept those e-invoices, those electronic invoices, meaning that your ERP or accounting system or your workflow solution, they need to be ready to receive, understand, interpret, even validate, in some cases validate and populate the necessary information into your ERP system to ensure seamless and smooth posting, and of course allow the users to even manually correct some exceptions that might raise or reject back to the supplier accordingly, depending again on your landscape and which countries we're talking about.
Brilliant. Thank you, Fotis. That was a really, really great explanation of a complicated topic, definitely. So I'm going to put on a quick poll now. You guys know what you're doing with our polls. And this one is really about tackling the challenges with Oh, if I can work out how to do my polls. There we go. Always a challenge. And this is really about the biggest challenges to e-invoicing compliance, because as Fotis mentioned, there is lots of different requirements. There's lots of different ways that you can have compliant e-invoices or non-compliant e-invoices. So I've put a few different challenges here, and we can kind of tackle a few of the most popular or unpopular challenges, however you categorize that, towards the end when we go into our Q&A. So is it keeping up with regulatory changes, handling cross-border compliance differences, integration with ERP or accounting systems, data mapping and format conversion, onboarding suppliers and customers to e-invoicing, budget constraints, internal process changes and training, choosing the right provider, or something else? And if there is something else, pop it in the chat and we'll have a look. And I'll leave that. You've got 30 seconds more to answer. Okay, so we'll quickly go into our next slide. And that's really around the roadblocks to compliance, because of course, there's lots of different things that we can talk about, but we want to make sure that you guys, our audience, have actionable advice to take away. So I'm going to start with you, Michael, on the hybrid world. Yeah, I'm going to start with you, Michael, on the hybrid world, and I'd love to know kind of what are we looking at here? What is this roadblock that you see to compliance with your customers?
Yeah, as you see here, it's a hybrid world. We have e-invoices, but we still have invoices from, let's say, from the old world. We have customers, they still get paper. They have to scan those invoices and to put an OCR over it. They get PDF files where we get the content out of the PDF files, and we have those structured XML invoices. And the challenge is to get all those different formats into the same process, to get them on the same place on the starting line. And that's what we can provide with our solutions. It doesn't matter which format, from which source, we can deal with that. And that's leading to the next point, the supplier readiness. It's not only what we want to do as the receiver of an invoice, that's also what the sender of it is doing. Sometimes we cannot tell somebody what he should send or what we want to have. We can tell, but maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, totally. I think that's interesting because I'm looking at our poll results on the right-hand side, and I can see several people are having that problem with onboarding suppliers and customers to e-invoicing. Any suggestions that you would add, Fortis, in terms of supplier readiness?
Yeah, this is a challenge, and also it's not very easy to handle this because in different countries you might get different regulations. For instance, the current legislation in Germany enforces, the recipient to actually process a received electronic invoice, but it doesn't really enforce the supplier to send that. But if you receive one, you have to actually do it. So you cannot really be that in this landscape, you cannot, in this context, you cannot be extremely strict to your suppliers. But sooner or later, you will have to be, because we are transitioning into this world. Now, when it comes to the supplier readiness, in general, it's true that some suppliers, they don't have the necessary even tools, to send out electronic invoices. And this is reducing the automation, as Michael said, because you will have simultaneously suppliers sending, some suppliers sending electronic invoices, some others sending PDFs. And also you might have cases where the same supplier sends at the same time an electronic invoice and a PDF, and then you have duplicates coming in your workflow, and you have another challenge there emerging. There's no golden rule here. The strategy that we've seen, working, of course, is putting your suppliers into specific tiers. Like once you have suppliers that they're sending tremendous, bigger volumes of documents, like the ones that they're generating more revenue on your side, they need to be tackled first, and you need to try to enforce them first. And usually those bigger suppliers, they have the way and they have the capacity to actually use a portal or an e-invoicing portal to generate those invoices. And then you will have other suppliers that unfortunately they will not have this capability. And for the meantime, you will have to either accept PDFs or provide your own supplier portal through a vendor, through a solution where they can manually upload regular invoices that they're going to be converted to e-invoices. And this is something also once you look into Hypatos and Friendworks working together, it's something that can be, I would say, partially tackled, because at the end of the day, every incoming invoice to Hypatos, whether we're talking about PDFs or electronic e-invoices, they're converted to a structured output that can be seamlessly integrated to your ERP system. So it's partially tackling this challenge as well there.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And number 3 roadblock to compliance is the reality of ERP. And I think this is really playing to our poll, because that was the highest percentage of people saying that integration with ERP and accounting systems is a big challenge for e-invoicing compliance. Who wants to take that roadblock?
Yeah, I can say something to this.
Great.
As we are not only working with SAP, that's a very important part of our business, but not only SAP, we know about those different things, how ERP systems are dealing with electronic invoices. And there are so many different kinds how they handle, from I don't care up to we have a high integrated solution. Everything is taking place out there. So the ERP part is very, very important, because that's where the booking will take place. And we are just providing to get those data to the place where those whole process can be finished. And today we're showing the solutions in combination with SAP, integrated in SAP, but we also deal with other systems like Microsoft and IFS and whatever. And the reality is that the different solutions, the different ERP solutions have different stages, how far they deal with all those challenges. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And before we move on to our next roadblock, just to draw your attention to the chat, Antonina has posted a question in there. A challenge that she's facing is monitoring the inflow for incoming invoices from platforms through the posted document in the ERP system. Is that something, maybe Fotis, I could ask you, is that something that you've seen? How would you handle that challenge?
Yes, that's a very good point by Antonina, actually, and it's also kind of linked to my intro and the continuous transaction control. So when you have, for countries that you have a full-blown e-invoicing solution in place, I mean, from the government point of view, like let's say you're using PEPL, by design, all the transaction goes through PEPL or the portal itself, the exchange portal itself. And you have to think about it as a bi-directional integration. Like every little system that is communicating with PEPL and is doing something in this process, like somebody is processing, somebody is validating, somebody is posting payments, all this stuff, they need to be reported back to this system. Unfortunately, this is not the case for many countries. Again, coming back to Germany, where things are a little bit more fluid. So an e-invoice might come in as an email, then a solution like Hypatos is going to process it, is going to validate it, is going to enrich the document, is going to do all the necessary to prepare the final posting in SAP system, and then sending out the structured document to the next solution. Friendworks is taking it over, posting it, parking it, posting it to SAP, for instance, and then you're getting the payment. Now, things are getting a little bit more challenging here because we're talking about different systems integrating in one place. What is the norm here, and what is the correct approach is to provide an overview of all those transactions. In Hypatos, we're doing that through our Insights platform. So every document that is coming in, we're logging all the information about this document, about the processing, of the document, like the information that we extracted, the information that we enriched, and everything. And then we have like specific timestamps of when this was received by Friendworks and park to SAP, then Friendworks can write back to Hypatus, and we can provide a conglomerated view, of the whole transaction. There are still challenges there, of course, because the more systems that are involved in the architectural landscape, the more challenging it becomes to synchronize all those systems into one ideally unified platform that provides you this overview that stands above everything. This is what we're trying to do with Insights. It's working pretty well. In some cases where, of course, we have many different systems, it's, as I said, more challenging, but there are ways to overcome this as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Let me move us on to our next slide. I'm conscious of time, and there's a couple more roadblocks that we wanted to draw the audience's attention to. I don't know if I forgot which order we were going to do it in, Fotis. Maybe the next one is to you.
I think it was me anyway. So about the fragmentation, we briefly, and Michael also briefly touched upon this before, right? So for some period of time, you will have invoices coming in as PDFs or electronic formats. What do we mean by process fragmentation? Imagine that you have your accounts payable team working with PDFs and working with electronic invoices. There's different challenges there. So first of all, when you're receiving an e-invoice and keeping in our minds, the near real-time transaction and the reporting back to the supplier, somebody needs to work on it in synchronously in real time. When you're talking about a PDF, we have this concept of month-end closing and all these things. So you got a little bit more time, let's say there. But also, when you're processing those two different types of documents, the way that you're processing is shifting. So when you were talking about PDFs, if you do not have an OCR solution, or even if you have an OCR solution in place, then usually you will still have to do some manual data entry before parking or posting the invoice and all these things. When it comes to electronic invoices, this process is kind of minimized, I would say, because the information is coming in a structured way. It's easier for machines and for solutions in between to do this data entry, and more reliable maybe than OCR in some cases. But you will have a different way of processing the exceptions. So every time the incoming invoice is, first of all, is not valid, it needs to be either corrected or most likely rejected and sent back to the supplier. Or even if it's valid, you might have exceptions raised in your internal workflow because of your internal business rules. So the focus of the accounting teams is shifting to correcting exceptions rather than data entry and enriching and coding the invoice. So there's inconsistencies. This is resulting into inconsistencies of processing time, different errors and higher error rates, and adding more complexity to your teams.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you. And last but not least, Michael, just turn it over to you for talking about the compliance risk and what our audience need to be aware of in the short term, at least.
Yeah, you got to keep an overview of all those different formats and those different rules, and that's the risk to miss something. If you got a partner who is dealing with all those different rules from the different countries, it minimizes the risk for you, because you don't have to watch what is happening in Belgium and what are the Austrians are doing and what is happening in Norway. So if you got a solution that is taking care of that, it minimizes the risk. That's it.
Simple as, yeah, totally.
Yeah, and the last sentence, I think, says what happens in the real world. It won't work on the first day. You won't have, so it won't be better on the first day. But the earlier you start, if you start your day, you will get better.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think that managing that transition is absolutely crucial. Yeah. Now we're going to shortly kind of go into a little bit of a demonstration, but I would like to ask you first, Michael, just to explain a little bit about how Hypatus and Friendworks work together. If you could just kind of give us a little bit of an overview.
Yeah, what you can see here is the end-to-end process as we understand it, Hypatos and Friendworks. We have 4 different stages. We have input channels, as Fotis said. We get them by email. We get them through a PayPal network. We get them on different ways, and we have different input channels. And what we can do together is to manage to get them all at the same place to start the process. And then the second stage is the AI agent. That's where Hypatos is taking care of the conversion, the capturing, the analyzing, the check. That's not an OCR. That's much more than an OCR. It's dealing with those informations with AI, and that's what Fotis will show afterwards. And after this, we are moving on to the leading system in the whole process, and that's the ERP system normally. In this case, it's SAP, and we get all those information in the invoice, and for example, the delivery note, which is connected to the document. We get this here in our invoice monitor within SAP, and we have an invoice ledger. We can start the workflow. We can pen a document as we want, and then on the fourth stage, we have the invoice workflow if needed. If we have a three-way match, this process can be very short or not even take place, and the invoice can be posted automatically. But if there is something to do, if somebody has to do an approval because there is a workflow rule that takes place, we have a workflow solution integrated in SAP approval process, and we have also an audit trail. We have a report which what has happened during the whole process, which will also be archived, and that's the last stage. The archiving, the storing to keep the document and all the information from the process for, as Fotis said, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, however, how long it has to be kept. And these are the different stages, and that's seamless if you work together with Hypatos and frameworks.
Perfect, thank you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, so Fotis and Thomas, who's been waiting very patiently, can go ahead and share theirs. We can have a look at what it looks like in practice, because I always think it's better for people to see it as opposed to hear about it.
Sure, let me start sharing my entire screen first. And
we can see that.
You can see my screen. Okay, so first of all, I'm showing you the test document that we're going to process. Is a Zugfahrt e-invoice, is a PDF A3 file. You can see the PDF part of it that contains 2 pages on my editor. Now, if I open the attachments, you can see that it has an XML attachment that if I open it, it's across industries, the CII format. It's a Zugfahrt compliant one, that it contains all the necessary information. The reason why I'm showing you this is to understand the hybrid format, but also to show you that this particular example that we're showing here is having an inside the XML is having another embedded document, which is of type PDF actually, and is representing a delivery note. This is a common thing. Sometimes you will see all those nested structures, an e-invoice is coming in, and this e-invoice has one or more embedded attachments that they represent additional documents like delivery notes in this case. So this is the document that we were processing, and we have already uploaded into Hypatos, and it has been completely processed. I have not confirmed it yet, so it's not moved yet to SAP. Thomas is going to show you that in a while once I confirm it. But very briefly, also trying to be considerate of our time here, this is Hypatos Studio for ones that have not seen it before. This is the web platform that we're offering for all of our customers and all of their e-invoices. So invoices and electronic invoices are still coming in one single place, and we're processing in a very similar manner, even identical, I would say, through our AI agents. There's only small pieces that they're changing. So in that case, the electronic invoice has been mounted into Hypatos, and what we're doing is that, first of all, we are creating this PDF representation of it, and is relying only on the XML content. So for hybrid formats, you have PDF. For non-hybrid, like Extract, you don't have PDF. But even for hybrid ones, this PDF representation is more, let's say, accurate or closer to the legal requirements because it's based solely on the XML content. So Hypatos is providing this representation as it's coming from the XML document, and we're merging also the initial PDF to the bottom of this file, and we are also extracting the delivery note from the XML attachment, and we're merging this as well into a single PDF that we can provide downstreams, as we're going to show you afterwards, to SAP. Now, on the right-hand side, you're going to see all the information that we have correctly and properly extracted from the XML part of the document, like the number of the invoice, the date of the invoice, and all these things. But also the information that we have enriched, as we call it. For instance, we have enriched the supplier. So now you see here with high confidence, we are finding into the SAP master data records that this Rewe supplier exists, and we're actually matching the correct supplier ID as it sits in the SAP system. So when we transfer this process output to SAP, this is taking into account, and the vendor is matched directly. We're doing the same for the bank account, and we're validating the bank account of the supplier. Payment terms, if they are there. In this example, there are no payment terms configured in the master data. And we're doing the same for the recipient company, which is your internal company code that needs to be mapped for your SAP system. But beyond that, we're also preparing the data, the lines of the invoice, as they are supposed to be parked and posted in the SAP system. So for instance, this invoice contains 12 items, as you can see here. But what our AI agents have done is actually merging them into 3 distinct items. You see that we have one for groceries and food items, one that is a bio milk that has a different tax rate. This is why we have a different entry for it. And then we have a delivery and service charges. The logic is that we're aggregating and we're grouping the charges based on their designated tax rate. And then based on that, we're also summing up the amount. We're populating a category, whether we're talking about goods or service received. And here's another enrichment part from Hypatos, where we're actually, again, against your master data and against your chart of accounts, or even accounting guidelines, depending on what you can provide to Hypatos. We're finding out what is the correct GL account that this line item should be booked, and the cost center, and we are assigning the tax code as it is, again, defined in the SAP system. Last but not least, because I think there was also a question by Stefan on the chat, we're also validating the incoming e-invoices. Currently, the validations that we're running, they're applicable only for Zugführt and Ex-Rechnung, because these are like the 2 major formats that there's no, they're not exchanged through a designated portal. So there's nothing in between to validate them. We're receiving them by email. We're utilizing standardized libraries like COSIT to perform the validation, but then we're interpreting the results with AI agents. So in this case, the received XML, the received invoice is a valid one. You can see also the profile that we used. But I also have a couple of other examples here, for instance, that this invoice was not correct. We're raising this as a validation error. Again, the profile here is different because this was an Ex-Rechnung, so it's a UBL invoice. And here we're listing down all the errors that we found. Now, the errors that we found, they could be structure errors, like in this case here, where you the supplier is providing information that is not compliant to the overall format, UBL in this case. Like you see, we have incorrect date format, for instance, or there's no currency found, although currency is mandatory and is expected. But we're also able to perform compliance semantic checks, regarding VAT amounts, tax rates, and all these things that they're coming from, in our example, the EN 16931 profile. Now, let me confirm the document before switching back to Thomas, but that was it from my side. I will discuss, I will tell you and explain to you a little bit more about the agents in a couple of minutes, but overall, this is how we're processing the documents in Hypatos, and we're transmitting them downstreams. Thomas, back to you.
Thank you. So I will start sharing my screen immediately. But first, now the interface is with the confirmation from Fortis is transferring this data directly to our SAP system and creating a posted or parked invoice in there. And this I would like to show you that I start directly with my inbox as user in SAP Fiori. You also can use your SAP GUI if you want. It's also available for SAP ERP. And first of all invoices are in our invoice monitor. So I have a complete overview about all parked and posted documents in the system. I have not many in this year, but this first one is this from 40s. It's transferred because it's correct, it's confirmed. And in the process definition, you can decide if you work with the Hypatos Studio to check all errors, or we can use the invoice monitor as well in the SAP system and display all the error codes. And there are also two stages. We also have the duplicate check of invoices in there. It's not active in my demo scenario to have to can post every invoice again, but this can be done also in Hypatos Studio with more detection anomalies and so on the invoices. So this invoice is directly parked in the system and is started a workflow. And we enrich also the data for Hypatos to, when you have the workflow in place with the approver, with the releaser, so the system can learn and detect the correct person in the workflow to send it directly to this inbox. And this is here, I open already the inbox, or I can go back. I see here my inbox with 3 tasks. And here I see this invoice from today. I can open it, and on the right side, you see this documents for this already has shown with the document generated by Hypatos. This here is the disclaimer that it's based on the XML invoice and embedded the original PDF from the invoice and the embedded delivery note. And this is all stored in your archiving system. When you already use an archiving system based on the SAP archive link or CMIS interface, it's stored and for your legal requirements. And this document is stored there. And we also proceed the original document also to store it directly there. So you are completely compliant when you're using a standard archive link certified archiving system. And as you see, we also got this accounting information from Hypatos, like our GL account, our amount, and on the right side, you see the description in the text field. It's very small in my screen now. And here we have this soya drink with the text code. In this case, the text code is not visible for the end user. I'm the approver now. I have to check the invoice. It's everything okay. I can adjust the cost center or something else. This is provided by the system, but this is all okay. And then I can say, this invoice I will accept. And then we have several approval chains or rules backwards. For this small amount invoice, it's only allowed to post it directly after approval, or it's sent back to the accounting department when we have any issue in the invoice. So I can recheck it with not okay. I have to comment this rejection and send it back, or I can move it forward to another colleague to check it. Anything else. I'm also able to attach additional attachment. I can here use a file from my laptop. I take a report, upload it, and this is also stored in the archiving system and attached directly to the process. And now I can release it. It disappears from my inbox. And from an accountant perspective, I have the incoming invoice ledger in our system to have a complete overview about all these invoices. So I select now the header information 2026. So I have not so many invoices in my selection. And here you see the last invoice I posted, and in our process now it's going to the accounting role or to the German Buchhalter to check it again, but it is not necessary when everything is okay and can be posted directly. But this is depending on your processes. We decide with you how the process flow is designed depending on the invoices. And what we not mentioned before, it's also possible to detect purchase order on the system. We also provide purchase order information and match the line items directly to the purchase order and have this three-way match. Michael mentioned it before. We have the three-way match. When everything is okay, the invoice is directly posted. When good receipt is missing or something else, you have to add your report in the system, your service entry sheet. You can do it directly over the workflow and have the complete process. And this is a fully integrated SAP solution directly in your SAP ERP or S/4HANA system, and uses the Hypatos interfaces to get the information directly from there. A short overview, questions,
thank
I think,
you.
afterwards. Thank you.
No, I mean, I think there's just so much to cover in such a short time, so it's definitely a whistle-stop tour. I did put, because I know we've rushed through that, I did put a link into the chat, so if you guys do want to go more in depth into e-invoicing, Hypatos frameworks, you can book a call or just message us on LinkedIn. We're all available. I'll share my slides because we have a few more to cover just as kind of takeaways for you guys. And, do post your questions in the chat or the Q&A. Even if we don't have time to answer them right now, we will make sure to email you and give you much more in-depth information. So let me just go back and share these. Focus over to you. I know that we wanted to look a little bit how the other benefits to deploying these kind of solutions, agentic AI, other than just compliance. I know a lot of our audience will be building their business cases, so it'd be great to give them some more information to get that buy-in.
Yes, so AI agents and e-invoicing, how they work together. Parts of this were also shown briefly. So contextual understanding. When an invoice is coming in, as I showed you before, it's not just reading through the technical fields that they're presenting and doing a mapping or an extraction, but is also able to understand what this input is about, aggregate them and create goods and service lines. They can also, for instance, recognize whether it's a PO or non-PO invoice, regardless if there's a PO actually printed on the invoice, because sometimes this is also the case, by checking the master data and the open purchase orders of the supplier, for instance. So it's providing deep contextual understanding of the document and the complementary documents that might come in with the invoice as well. Account coding, we showed that during our demo. AI agents, they're reading through the aggregated lines, and then based on the e-invoice content, but also based on your chart of accounts or your accounting guidelines, they can assign the correct GL account, cost center, and tax code per line item. But this is applicable for non-PO invoices mostly, of course, but for PO invoices, and as Thomas mentioned before, 2-3-way matching can also be supported by AI agents. We are getting open purchase orders from your SAP system, for instance, or your ERP system in general, and AI agents, at the time that they're processing the lines of the invoice, they're trying to match them against the ones that we have from your system of record. And again, if there is only a PO available, we're doing a 2-way matching. If a goods receipt has also been received in the meantime, we're talking about a 3-way matching here. Tax compliance, we have dedicated AI agents per country, even because regulations, tax compliance regulations, they're different per country, that they can run in an automatic way all the validations that they're required and all the necessary tax calculations to ensure tax compliance. Semantic and structural validation is the one that we briefly also showed during the demo. We can parse the incoming e-invoices and check them, if their structure is according to the format and if they're complying to country-specific standards and semantic rules. And fraud detection. Fraud detection is also very important because, as I mentioned before, we have the case where you have, the same supplier sending the same invoice as an electronic one or as a PDF one. So we're talking about duplicate detection, which is very important at this point, but also in general, with specific pattern recognitions and historical examples that we've seen in the past, we can also provide AI-powered fraud detection in case, an incoming invoice is something that you should be aware of not to process. So how is this actually AI agents turning compliance into competitive advantage? First of all, is increasing efficiency by automating and streamlining the processing and the validation of the incoming invoices. You're reducing manual work. Agentic AI is taking over, I would say, the biggest burden from this process from your hands. Is also decreasing risk and increasing compliance. Decreasing risk by real-time tax validation through the tax agents that mentioned before, and compliance is being increased by providing clear explainability and auditability of what has been done, what has been processed for this invoice. Every agent is giving a very specific structure and reasoning on how and why this invoice and its contents were processed in this way. And as mentioned before, reducing fraud risk and duplicates. And is also offering you a strategic advantage. It's giving you real-time finance visibility. Incoming documents, incoming invoices are processed in real time, and they're posted in your ERP system in real time. Scaling global operations, more documents processed per FTE per day. And of course, the finance team now is shifting from manual data entry and fixing resolutions of invoices already accepted and posted to cost-saving mode and to a driving revenue mode, where basically you're making better decisions by the data that have been automatically processed by you, the insights and the reports we provide on top. And at the end of the day, you're capable of also improving working capital.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Fotis. So I'm gonna, for our last slide, I'm gonna turn it over to Michael just for our final takeaways. And then I can see we've got a couple of questions that's come in, which is great. So we'll make sure to address those before we close out. Over to you, Michael.
Yeah, yeah. You heard quite a lot about the tax and different countries and different rules and different formats, and to bring it on 5 fingers on 5 points. What is better if you use such a solution as we've shown it during the last 50 minutes? You increase your automation, you're reducing manual tasks and increasing speed. You are compliant. You have rules, guidelines, and tax laws that have to be followed, and we can take care of it by designing a process together with you. Transparency, as Thomas said, you got an invoice monitor. You see every invoice which is in your organization. Where is it? Who has it? What has to be done? As Thomas showed, we have a high integration. What the solution Thomas showed is working within your SAP system. So, and it doesn't matter if it's an ECC, S4, BTP solution, or whatever. We support these different technologies. And of course, the quality of your process, your invoice approval process will increase by numbers. So that's automation, compliance, transparency, integration, quality. That's
Brilliant.
what you get if you work with Hypertos and frameworks.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go into our Q&A, and we love to see if you've got any questions. I'll pop up our last poll, and that's just really if you have any next steps. So if you guys do want to kind of have a call with Hypertos and Frameworks, book a demo or receive more information, we do have a kind of out-of-the-box invoice solution that is ready to go, so you can learn more about that. Quick fire, we've got 5 minutes for questions, so I'll do a bit of a quick fire round. Fotis, does Hypertos support the Austrian e-invoice format EB interface?
We are actually currently working on it. We are about to deploy it for our first customer requesting that. So technically the answer is not yet. It's like beta version, but it's definitely coming up very, very soon. We're aware of EB interface, Astrofix, and all the things that we need to handle there. There are specific peculiarities there / challenges if you compare it to other formats like the German ones, but we're aware of them. And yes, quite soon, even probably next week, I would say this is going to be officially out there and supported as well.
Oh, well, stay tuned. Exciting
And I
time.
see, sorry for jumping over, because I saw it's pretty much the same question when it comes to the Polish KCF format. Yes, we support this already, and also the latest version, which is the FA3, if I'm not mistaken. Although things are moving also quite slowly there in Poland, so I don't know exactly where they're standing with the portal. But anyway, we support the format out of the box, yes.
Perfect. Another question that's come through from Marcel. Marcel's asking, besides the PO line items, can the system also recognize planned delivery costs of the PO? Is the invoice then correctly parked in SAP with PO position 10 and 20 and planned delivery cost of the PO positions 10 and 20, for example? Is that something that you can help with, Thomas?
Yeah, sure. This is depending on the handover of the Hypatos side. When we hand over the correct line items, it can be also matched with the planned delivery costs, or we use the solution to work like the Miro transaction based on the good receipt. So we provide any data, and then you have also this three-way match that the planned delivery costs are provided by the SAP system at itself. It's a solution in the workflow task. And so we can customize both systems on your requests, I would say. And interesting is also the unplanned delivery costs. We can create line items or use this field unplanned delivery cost in SAP, or you post it against a GL account and then we can provide it. But this can set up in Hypatos also.
Also, to amend to Thomas' response here, yes, that's 100% accurate. And it really also depends on how Hypatos is pre-processing the document before handing it over to frameworks in this case, right? So in principle, when we're processing PO-related invoices, of course, the PO matching is in place. And as Marcel is also mentioning, you're going to have like 2 lines coming from 2 matched purchase order lines. Now, if there's any planned or unplanned delivery costs or like freight charges, shipping costs, or anything printed on the invoice, Hypatos agents are fully capable of recognizing these and aggregating them accordingly, as well as additional charges. Now, it really depends how the customer would like to then process those planned or unplanned costs. Usually the way it is that we're delivering the matched lines as posting lines, matching exactly the PO lines, and then we're also delivering back to SAP the delivery costs as a separate item, and then they can be handled differently there in the workflow, as Thomas mentioned.
Brilliant, thank you. Sadly, that's all we've got time for. I could talk to you all day, but we've reached the top of our hour. So I want to say thank you so much to Michael, to Fotis, to Thomas for taking the time to put together that fantastic presentation and deliver it today. And thank you to all of you in our audience that have attended. You will get an email tomorrow with the recording. So if you do want to visit it again, if you want to share it with your colleagues, then that will be available to do so. And I can send around a copy of those slides as well. If you do want to, oh, that's a great, the Fotis has just answered Stefan's question. Brilliant, thank you. So yeah, if you do want to learn more about Hypatos and frameworks, then please do get in touch. We're all on LinkedIn, and I've left that poll open for you guys to answer. Thank you once again, and I will see you next time.
Thank you, Sally, for hosting. Thanks, everyone.